Hi, I want to make you aware of an additional citizens prosecution that's arisen, led by a group of 3 women in Cambridgeshire, and they are alleging that this delay in sending children back to school breaches the human rights of British children. And they have formed a group, and it's called Us For Them. They have a website called usforthem.co.uk, and I recommend everyone goes there and checks it out. I don't know what's taken these people so long to get onto this. I called for a citizens prosecution 8 weeks ago, and if we're breaching children's human rights now, surely we were breaching them back then. And there's an article in the news about how these women felt intimidated by the government about speaking out against sending their children back to school. And I totally understand that, because there was an interesting video by Anna Breeze and a journalist called Henry Windass talking about a leaked Sage memo about how the media needed to intimidate any dissenters to the coronavirus hysteria, it's going to kill us all kind of story. And Windass goes through it in a lot of detail, and I recommend people check that out. I'll put a link in the description. And I think that media strategy, which is pretty similar to the CIA Operation Mockingbird, for any historians out there, is pretty sinister. I can't imagine how it can possibly be lawful to be using subversive tactics to threaten British citizens, but that's what our government does. And obviously it's got to these women, but now they're speaking out, they're stepping up in a big way. I think they're great people. And I just want to read you a couple of paragraphs from the article that was in the news that I really just saw a few minutes ago when I woke up. Let me read you what's here. So it says three mothers are considering suing the government over school closures amid claims they may have breached children's human rights. The women have also written to Secretary of State Williamson for education to ask whether the long-term physical and mental welfare of pupils has been considered, and to raise concerns about social distancing. One of the campaigners, Christine Brett, who has 2 children, said these are healthy children who have been quarantined for 12 weeks. They shouldn't be treated like germs, disinfected on entry and separated onto individual tables. Schools are set to return on Monday, that's today, for the first time since March 20th after being closed down because of the coronavirus. And I just want to make a point that in the Simon Dolan legal challenge, I am aware that the government had no legal basis for closing schools. And so if they don't have any legal basis for closing schools, surely there's no legal opposition to opening schools. I encourage these campaigners to look into that, maybe a side point here. However, let me continue. The 3 mothers launched the Us For Them campaign on behalf of parents who say they were made to feel like pariahs by admitting they disagreed with children being kept at home because of COVID-19. So that's to do with the deliberate government propaganda. That was a deliberate campaign to intimidate citizens. Founders Molly Kingsley, Liz Morris and Mrs. Brett, all from Cambridgeshire, have 1 child each returning to school and another stuck at home. They claim overwhelming evidence that lockdown is having a devastating impact on children's well-being may have been overlooked. They also fear draconian social distancing rules planned for when schools return could cause long-term mental damage to children. The well-being of children must be taken into account in the government's decision-making, they say. The scientific advisory group known as SAGE said the risk of children catching the virus while back at school was small, but not zero. It also found there was not a higher risk to teachers of being infected compared to other adults going back to work. The Mothers Group, which was formed when they met online, is also arguing against extreme social distancing rules, such as toddlers being banned from playing with toys, which could be implemented when children return. And then this is the key point. Such measures may contravene the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, which states that the best interests of the child must be the primary consideration, they say. And I just want to point out, not disregarding the UN stuff, but the English Bill of Rights specifically allows for freedom of association. So, Maybe the English Bill of Rights is less important than the UN human rights. I don't think it is, but you know, it's all in interpretation. Almost 2,000 parents and teachers who previously feared speaking out in support of a return have rallied behind the campaign. Many parents are now too scared to admit they want to send their children back to school after unions opposed the reopening of classrooms. The group has been deluged with messages from parents, teachers, and even psychologists thanking them for their bravery in starting the campaign. So, you know, good for these people. The former lawyer, who has 2 daughters, aged 3 and 6, said, "We've had so many private messages of support from parents who have felt unable to speak out on their school WhatsApp groups or Facebook groups for fear of a backlash." The lobbying group has written an open letter to the Education Secretary asking to know what investigations were done into the impact on children's mental and physical welfare when guidance was drawn up. They also ask why the views of parents and experts on children's welfare appear not to have been considered. So a lot of points in there about how parents feel threatened and intimidated, and I think that goes back to the government propaganda program that was designed to do that. Obviously it's been successful. In the interest of fairness, let me just read you a quick point from the Department of Education who have responded, and it says, "Throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, our decisions have been based on the best scientific and medical advice," which is the Neil Ferguson advice. That was the best they could come up with the welfare of children and staff at the heart of all considerations. We have placed significant emphasis on mental health and well-being in our planning framework for the wider opening of schools and have provided advice for parents and carers on looking after children's mental health during the outbreak. So I don't know if threatening the parents of children through a government propaganda people is helping the mental health of children, but you know, I'm sure the government will find some reason why they can justify that. So it's great that these folks are stepping up. I encourage everyone to go to their website, donate and support it, and you know, we'll see what happens. I think it's going to be very, very interesting to see the outcome of this. It's also great that the media are supporting it. They didn't want to have anything to do, or to date, with the Citizens Prosecution of Alison Saunders, which is violating the rights of British men. But when it comes to violating the rights of children, which are equally important, they're all over it. So, you know, good job. This article came from Mail Online, and I recommend you can read it for yourself. I'll put a link in the description. So, hope you like this video. Please subscribe to the channel, and we'll talk to you soon.